Today we'll be taking a look at the Marantz AV10 processor. First things first, got to give a big shout out and thank you to the folks at Dream Media Home Theater. Thank you so much, guys. Now, if you're in the market for a Marantz AV10, either shoot myself an email or contact Dream Media Home Theater and we will get you set up. The Marantz AV10 comes in at a whopping $7,000, so this is not for the faint of heart. It is a 15-channel processor, which means you will need amplification, so that means more money. You can go for the matching AMP10 from Marantz. It's a 16-channel amplifier. I chose not to go with that because I already have a 16-channel amplifier, so I'm set there. However, you will need amplification no matter how big your system is. If it's a 7-channel system, 9-channel, 15-channel, 13-channel, you're going to need an amplifier regardless. It will cover all immersive audio formats like Dolby Atmos, DTS:X, DTS:X Pro, IMAX Enhanced, and Auro 3D. And for all of you gamers out there, all 7 HDMI inputs support 8K 60 and 4K 120 up to 40 gigabits per second. I'm going to show you in a minute how you can configure this beast of a processor up. There's a whole lot that you can do there. We're going to check that out after we check out the front and back panel. So let's do that. On the left, we have a power button and input selector knob. On the right, we have the volume knob and a 1/4-inch headphone jack. And in the center, we have the iconic Marantz porthole. And if you've ever watched my channel, you know I hate that design. Hate it. Hate it. I can't see it. 14 feet away, I can't see that tiny little... Anyway, in the middle, down in the flap, there is a much larger screen along with some extra buttons. We have buttons for Pure Direct, MDAX, status, dimmer button, Zone 2 and 3 controls, and on the right of the screen you have a navigation area to move through the menu. Under the screen in the middle you have a jack for the microphone to run Odyssey room correction and a USB-A port as well. Speaking of room correction, the Marantz AV10 is upgradable to have Direct Live room correction, which should be releasing sometime in March. That's this month, yes. And yes, there is an additional charge for that, but let's not get into all that. Let's check out what's on the back. All right, there's a lot on the back of this beast, so let's take it section by section, starting at the bottom. Here we have a total of 17 XLR and 17 RCA outputs. Wait a second, Technodad, didn't you say it was a 15-channel processor? Why does it have 17 pre-outs if there's only 15 channels of processing? That's because you can wire up an extra 2 speakers and switch seamlessly from Dolby Atmos to Auro 3D without having to change a whole lot, and everything's already connected. We'll get into that in just a little bit. Let's get back to that back panel. Yeah. Moving up, we have 4 subwoofer outputs, both in XLR and RCA. Moving left, we have connections for RS-232, remote control in-out, amp control, IR input. We have 2 12-volt trigger outputs here in the DC out section, and we have RCA pre-outs for Zone 2 and Zone 3. The next section is for analog audio input, and I like how the CD input has XLRs for those that have a high-end music player. To the left we have antenna connections, and on the far left is the phono input with ground screw. On the top row we have a digital audio input section consisting of 2 coaxial and 2 optical inputs. There's a network port, and as stated before, 7 HDMI inputs that are all compatible with HDMI 2.1 spec up to 40 gigabits per second. There are 3 HDMI outputs, monitor 1 and 2 are HDMI 2.1 for 8K output, and Zone 2 is limited to a 4K output. If you are planning on using eARC with a television, you will need to connect monitor 1, the HDMI output in the middle, with the eARC port on your television. There's also a USB-A port, and on either side we have your Bluetooth and Wi-Fi antenna connections. All right, now on to how many different ways can we set up the AV10. And I gotta say, I took pretty much an hour's worth of footage, and there's a whole lot. There's a whole lot. So I'm gonna try to make this as fast as possible for you guys. All right, here we go. 5.1.2, 5.1.4, 5.1.6, 7.1.2, 7.1.4, 7.1.6. Then there's 7.1.2 using front wides instead of surround back, 7.1.4 again using front wide instead of surround back, and 7.1.6 front wide instead of surround back. And then we get into 9.1.2, 9.1.4, and 9.1.6. Now there is one more option in all of these configurations, whether you have 5 ear level speakers, 7 ear level speakers, or 9 ear level speakers, you can add 8 height channels. 8 height channels. 8 height channels. Yes, I said that correctly. You heard it right. The extra 2 speakers are for the Voice of God channel, also known as the top surround, and the center height channel, which is pretty much like a center channel speaker just above the screen. So basically, what you're going to have in this diagram is 3 channels at the front of the room, 3 in-ceiling speakers in the middle of the room, and 2 height channels at the rear of the room. Now, I'll say this before you ask, because I know you're going to ask, can you run all 17 speakers at once? Dude, awesome! No, calm down. Now, I tried all the up mixers, and with Dolby or DTS, you are maxed out at 15. That's it, 15 channels, that's all. With Oro 3D, it's even less. It's 13 channels, and I haven't heard of any other Oro 3D configuration higher than 13, so to me, that kind of makes sense. So 13 channels, you're maxed out. With an Oro 3D upmixer, any other upmixer is going to be 15 channels. Not even all channel stereo will run all 17 speakers. You are capped out at 15, but that's okay. That's okay. It's all good. It's all gravy, baby. This is one amazing piece of gear, I gotta tell you. So let's get into my first impressions. The AV10 processor is the culmination, the flagship processor product from Marantz, and I gotta say, it is pretty awesome. Like, the remote control itself is, well, okay, I don't think the remote control is worth $7,000, but it's heavy, it's metal, it's awesome. It's got a little backlight function too, which everybody loves. And it definitely speaks to the high build quality that you're gonna see with this particular Marantz product. There's a huge long 30-minute video on YouTube where they have all of the internal components laid out, and it is very impressive. Internal components, top notch. They have a toroidal transformer, also a very good sign. Now, as far as the exterior design, it is gorgeous. Very minimalistic, especially with just the 2 knobs, the porthole, and then the flap. And of course, we've got the signature like light off the sides, which the design comes from the Marantz 40N integrated amplifier they released, I believe, last year or maybe the year before that. But anyway, this thing looks pretty sexy, I gotta say. One thing though that you should take into consideration if you are buying this, it is big. Like, big. Okay, it's still under 8 inches tall, which is good. Standard left-right width, but it's the depth. This thing is almost 20 inches deep. 20 inches deep. And depending on what kind of XLR you connect to it, like mine are like 2 inches. So now we're about 22, 23 inches in depth. So you need to make sure that whatever TV stand, home entertainment system, AV rack, whatever it is that you got can handle this sexy beast, right? Because it is big, okay? And it is sexy, and it is a beast. And if you want to get your hands on an AV10, make sure to email myself or the folks at Dream Media so that we can make your dream a reality. Of course, if you are one of our patrons named Fred, this is not for you. These are not the droids you are looking for, Fred, okay? But for everybody else, this thing is feature packed, and I don't think I will ever find anything wrong with it, but hey, you know, give me some time. I just had this thing for about a week, so I'm running a full manual calibration using the spatial audio calibration toolkit, and I also added front wides here in the studio, so I've got 9 ear level speakers, 4 height channels. I have 2 more height channels, so I will be running a 9.1.6 Atmos setup here in the studio using the AV10 and a 16-channel amplifier, which will remain nameless because it's not a Marantz. But you can get the Marantz AMP10 if you like. And one of the reasons I'm very excited about this is because I'm starting to mix Atmos in 9.1.6, and I need a way to test or hear it on a consumer system. So the AV10 is perfect for me, albeit a little bit overkill, but hey, I'm Techno Dad, so gotta do some things with a whole bunch of overkill, right? I wouldn't be me if I didn't. So yeah, a little bit of overkill for me. However, it will serve a huge purpose, not only for me, but for every one of you watching and all my patrons and email subscribers and everybody over at the Spatial Audio Calibration Toolkit Discord. There's a whole bunch of new Atmos coming out, even some originals by yours truly. That's right. Your boy's been hard at work. Anyway, if you have any questions about the AV10 that could warrant me making another video about it, let me know down in the comments below. And if you had $7,000, would you be picking this up or would you be picking up something else? Either way, whatever you're buying for your home theater, make sure you drop a line and contact the folks at Dream Media so they can get you set up. That's it for today. See you in the next one. Peace.
Me.